Hi, everyone, and welcome to our monthly software and internet monthly market report. Hopefully, there's some good stats in here that you'll find helpful about the market. So let's start with the month of July. $7.6 billion invested in July, 92 transactions, and a median revenue multiple of 2.9 times across all transactions. We'll get into more detail on all of this later in the presentation, but there's definitely a rebound in activity, which is very encouraging for us. So, especially on the number of transactions, but we'll get into that later. Some of the notable transactions for the month: Compass Analytics acquired Optimal Blue for 1.8 billion. Advent International acquired Forescout for 1.4 billion. And then Ardian and EQT acquired Rancher Labs for 650 million. So definitely encouraging to see a few very large transactions there, which just kind of shows that the market is really starting to recover from the COVID-19 levels. So you can see this on the chart. Obviously, if we look at annualized deal volumes to date, we're going to be way short of last year and 2018, and that's to be expected. There really has been a pause in activity for 2 or 3 months as we went into COVID, even with the recovery that's happened. But we would expect, this to kind of increase. It's not going to get anywhere close, probably to 180 billion from that we reached last year, but hopefully it gets relatively close, and is closer to kind of the 2018 levels. The other interesting trend is obviously that the number of transactions is down pretty considerably, so nearly 20% this year again. So, we've really fallen off of the peak of 2018, where there was a real volume of transactions happening. And obviously, this means that the middle market and the lower middle market is the area that's probably been hit the hardest in terms of transactions getting done or being delayed. On the multiple side of stuff, this is obviously normalized, and this is a trend that we've seen all year, even pre-COVID. The SaaS multiple has come down to 4.5 times from 6.2. I view that as more of a normalization. You can kind of see that's pretty much in line with 2018 levels. And then on the non-SaaS side, that's continued to kind of trend down and be around just under 2.5 times from the peak a couple of years ago of 3.2. So, this is all kind of expected trends. I think the other item as well that is interesting is the narrowing of the gap between SaaS and non-SaaS. Like, obviously it peaked last year, and it's really started to narrow again as buyers really look at the economics, whether it's SaaS or non-SaaS, versus just purely the business model. So you can see on the monthly deal count, this is how things kind of come out. We obviously trended down significantly in April and May and hit like just around 60 transactions per month. We're back up to 92 this month, so very much more in line with some of the lower months of 2019. So obviously we're not peaking out at some of those higher months above 100, 125 deals per month, but it is really encouraging to kind of see that back upward trend from the May low, and a continued trend from from June growth as well. So for us, that's very encouraging. I wouldn't expect this gets back up to 120, 130 deals, but there is a little bit of backlog that still needs to be cleared. So we could maybe hit some fresh highs, at least for 2020, in the next few months as some of that backlog clears off. On the VC side of stuff, seems to be chugging along quite nicely. 3.3 billion invested in July, 233 transactions, and the median deal size is 3 million. So relatively early stage. A lot of the money is still going into. On the notable deal side, Robinhood raised 600 million, led by Sequoia. Palantir raised 550 million from RLC. And then TalkDesk raised 143 million from Threshold Ventures. So some good, decent-sized deals happening across the space, and that's encouraging to kind of see. You can see more here on the dollar volume of VC investment. So again, we're not going to reach 2019 levels, but we're on track to kind of be at about 40 billion versus 48 billion last year. So about down, almost 20%. Year over year, but very encouraging given that was the kind of peak. Probably going to end up in line with 2018, and that is nothing to complain about given where the market's been the last couple of months. And then lastly, VC valuations by stage. You can see this, like, actually it's kind of interesting. Early stage transactions have stayed pretty constant. That's the gray line at the top at 18 times. So, even though it was kind of peaked out last year pretty significantly over 2018, levels have stayed about the same. On the red line, which is the late stage transactions, they've actually rebounded quite significantly from 7.7 times to 13.1. I would view that as more of just kind of reversion to the mean, much more consistent with 2018 levels versus 2019. And then obviously on the mid-stage transactions, very consistent, 10.8 in 2018, 11 in 2019, and 10.6 in 2020 year to date. So very good to see those levels holding up. Anyway, that's it for this month. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out. And we also, in our monthly market report, we have a lot more stats and details as to the market conditions on the VC and M&A side. So feel free to reach out and connect with us if you need any more info. Anyway, have a great month.